What is going on, everybody? My name is John Solo, and today I'm going to share with you guys some really cool facts about Geonosians. I want to dive right into this list, but first I want to give a shout out to the sponsors who made this video possible. ZBox. ZBox is a subscription service that sends you over $50 worth of nerdy goodness like what you're seeing on your screen every single month. If you're someone who's always wanted to give services like this a shot but didn't want to take the risk of not liking what's inside, this is the perfect time to join because next month's theme is villains and it's going to have some items from the DC Universe and Star Wars. If you're interested and want to support the channel, I've got a link to their site in the description down below, as well as my discount code SOLO5, which will get you $5 off your membership when you sign up. So with that, I say it's about time we get started. Without further ado, here are 10 interesting things that you should know about Geonosians. Number 1. They have a caste system. At the top of this caste system is the queen, like Karina the Great, who we saw in the Clone Wars. Below her, there were public leaders like Archduke Poggle the Lesser, some upper caste members like Sunfac, then warriors, then drones. Drones were the ones who were used the most in the Death Star's construction and other industrial projects. It was possible to move up in the caste system. Drones could become warriors after proving themselves in the Petranaki arena, going through combat trials similar to what we saw in Attack of the Clones. Number 2. A naturally industrious species. Speaking of industry, the Geonosian civilizations relied heavily on productivity to survive and thrive. This is part of the reason why its leaders agreed to housing the droid factories for the Trade Federation, as well as building the Death Star. Without projects like these to focus on, the society would eventually delve into chaos and even civil war. Number 3. Termites. It's obvious that Geonosians are supposed to be insect-like, but did you know that George Lucas actually based their appearance on the termites that infested his house? While coming up with the concept art for the creatures, he was in the middle of a termite infestation and brought a few of the bugs to his concept artists for inspiration. The ideas for the caste system and mound-like structures that were their hives were also inspired by termites. Actually, one of the only things about Geonosians that wasn't inspired by termites was their faces, which were based on the original designs for the Nemoidians. Number 4. Karina the Great. Although Poggle the Lesser served as Geonosis' public leader, Karina the Great was actually the one in charge and laid many eggs that hatched both soldiers and drones alike. She made her debut in Season 2 of the Clone Wars, where we saw that she had learned to take control of others and even bring back the dead using brainworms that would bury themselves in the heads of their victims. And speaking of buried, she ended up being buried alive in the cave she resided in at the hands of the clones and some of the Jedi on Geonosis. Number 5. They lived in poop houses. No, I'm not insulting the architectural integrity of the Geonosians. Those tall structures seen on the landscape of Geonosis were all made from a mixture of stone powder and Fidna dung. Fidna were parasitic creatures that lived on the planet's surface. Something I thought about after learning this is that if Fidna really are parasitic creatures, they probably have really small excrement, right? So realistically, unless it made up a really small portion of their building materials, they probably needed a lot of it to build their hives. So do you think there's an entire industry on Geonosis that focuses solely on gathering Fidna poop? Because I'm gonna choose to believe that. Number 6. Genocide. The Geonosians were primarily responsible for constructing the first Death Star, but surprise, surprise, the Empire wasn't nearly as appreciative as they should have been. The species was able to build the station almost in its entirety, but they weren't able to figure out how to get the amount of power required out of the super laser. Almost immediately after the battle station's hyperdrive was operational and the Geonosians had served their purpose, the Empire bombed the surface of Geonosis in an attempt to silence all potential witnesses that could inform the rebels what they've been building. Number 7. Geonosians find little value in life. The fact that Geonosians can compete in a fight to the death in order to move up in the caste system, in my opinion, is reflective of the fact that they don't really value their lives all that much. The Petranaki arena was where the majority of these battles took place, and just like at the spectacle that was our hero's execution, the seats were always filled. The Geonosians found combat not only exciting and entertaining, but also respectable. Combat was so ingrained in their culture that when fights began to break out during the construction of the Death Star, Poggle had to reassure Orson Krennic that it was to be expected and not to worry. I've gotta say, I think this speaks to the genius of Palpatine. Not only was he able to find a species that literally needed to be productive to survive, he found a species that valued their work more than their own lives, as well as the lives of others. So they had no moral issues constructing the Death Star either. Number 8. Penguins and bats. Like most of the sound effects in Star Wars, the lovely sounds that Geonosians use to communicate comes from some interesting sources. The first was some penguins during their mating season, and the second was a group of fruit bats fighting over a banana. It's like music to my ears. Number 9. The capital. There is an incredible number of hives on Geonosis, and all of them have vast underground tunnel networks, but one of the largest was the Geonosian hive. This particularly massive hive was the Confederacy's first capital, and also housed factories that built battle droids, weapons, and vehicles, and was nearby the arena of justice. Number 10. Klik-Klak. Geonosians may not value their lives much on an individual level, but when it comes to the survival of the species, they start to care a little bit more. This was evident in one particular Geonosian called Klik-Klak, who was primarily responsible for Geonosians not being completely wiped out by the Empire. We saw in Star Wars Rebels that he was watching over a queen egg, hoping it would eventually hatch. Fortunately for him and the rest of the Geonosians, it did hatch, but unfortunately for them, the queen ended up losing her womb and attached herself to a droid factory which she used as a mechanical womb to give birth to B-1 battle droids that she saw as her children. Sometime afterward, Vader ended up visiting Geonosis himself and taking the droid factory away from her by force. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of Star Wars 101. I hope you enjoyed it and come back next week for more. Make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on so you don't miss any uploads you might be interested in. Hit that like button to show the channel some love, and share this video with a Star Wars loving friend or two. If you want more Star Wars right this second, and I don't blame you if that's the case, I've got links to my 2 previous videos right over here and playlists in the description down below. I'll see you guys soon, and may the Force be with you.